this is Valerie. I just wanted to give you a quick video on some tips for how to find a topic for either LLR or ELR, and then also just kind of talk a little bit about preemption. The video, I'm trying to make it short, but there's a lot to cover, so try not to fast forward through all of it because it really will help you guys out. So let me start with this concept first. Definitely, you want to go to the news or something outside of your own head to think of a topic. Because if you think of a topic inside your own head, like, gee, it seems like a good idea to write on, NFL and concussions, there's going to be 50 other people who thought that was also a good idea. And then you will be what's called preempted. We'll talk more about that later. So, what I want to show you guys how to do is let the news show you what's new, what's interesting, what's noteworthy, and then you can go from there. So just to kind of cover it briefly, a note is a paper that's discussing or analyzing a legal issue in depth, and it's broad. You bring in a lot of different sources when you do that. You can bring in, like, there's a big historical section, and then there's a big, analyzing and impact section. It's a big, longer paper. Compare that to a comment, and a comment is going to be a paper that's written on a single case, and it's going to analyze what the impact of that case is on society, on the area of law, maybe on business. It just kind of depends on what the case is. But because you have to write 40 pages, you must pick a topic, a comment that has something very interesting going on in it, or a lot of tension, or leaves a lot of open questions that need to be addressed. It's the only way you're going to really be able to make your page length, because the way that the papers work is that you have to footnote almost every sentence. And that means you want to be able to pick a topic that's got a lot of sources out there for you to cite to inside your article. You get your sources from the following places. You either go to other law reviews that have been written on the same topic but are outdated. Let's say they've been written maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now something new has happened. You get them from the news. You get them from case law, statutes, and like law blogs and that kind of thing. Maybe secondary material, treatises. That's it. Those are pretty much where you go. And you'll see that a lot of law review articles cite to other law review articles. So that's kind of a primary area for you. So you want to make sure that you want to pick a topic that has enough sources for you to footnote adequately. So let's start by just looking in the news. I'm going to take you someplace specific, and I'm doing this for a reason. I want you to click over here on legal news. And then I want you to click on Law 360. Law 360 is devoted to cutting edge legal topics. The benefit of that is that you don't need a lot of search terms. You can just put in a few things and you're always going to get stuff that comes up right on point. These are written by other attorneys that are experts in the field. This is extremely popular in the firms. Lawyers use this extensively to keep up to date on new developments in their field. So this is really like the perfect place to find a topic. And I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of ideas for you about how you can use your search terms to find good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start like this. Let's say you just want to see the variety of circuit court of appeals cases that have come out. Okay, so I'm going to say Circuit Court of Appeals. And I'm going to click search. The purpose for this are twofold. Sometimes if you decide you want to write a note, you can use a circuit court case as a jumping off point to talk about broader issues. This is a very common approach for notes. If you decide you don't want to write a note and you're looking for a good case to write a comment on, which is, comments just on one case, this is a great place to find interesting, novel, cutting edge questions, cutting edge cases for you. Now, this is the key thing that you have to remember. You must resort this from newest to oldest all the time. Now, the reason for that is because the shelf life of a law review article is about a year and a half or 2 years. So if you get, hang on, I'm going to just put this back. Look at this, see. If you get really excited about an article that was written in 2003, you're going to be preempted for sure. So you always want to focus on the new. The best way to find a novel, cutting edge topic that's publishable is to focus on the new things in the law. And what you're looking for is movement. Where has the law changed? Has it been contracted? Has like a legal right been contracted? Has it been broadened? Is it easier to bring suit? Is it harder to bring suit? Those are the kind of things that you want to look at and trying to figure out if you want to write on a case or on a broader note. So just so you have like an idea about what to look at, you know, the stuff like moves so quick that I put stuff in here and then it goes away. I'm going to click on the first one just so you have an idea, okay? And I'm just going to give you a variety of different ways. Seventh Circuit on Monday affirmed a conviction of fiction, a 2-year sentence for disbarment, Indiana attorney, blah, blah. So this is what I would say to you. The federal court, the challenge falls flat. All right, the Supreme Court has held that a mailing that takes place, so it's looking for other precedential value of this. This could be a case, this could be probably be more like of a comment, but in order to write a good comment, there has to be tension in the case. So in this particular Seventh Circuit case, if the Seventh Circuit agreed with the lower court, the district court, and everybody agrees with everybody, then there's nothing to write about and you're never going to make your 40 pages. You have to find a case that has tension inside of it, and so that you can take the district court approach, you can compare that to the circuit court approach, you decide who has the right approach, and then you conclude. If everyone has the same approach, then you're not going to have enough to say. So let's go back for a second here. Okay, now let's give you a couple other ideas and some good examples. Let's say you just want to write on, see what's happening with the First Amendment. You can just use one term. You don't have to shove a bunch of stuff in here. You can just use one term and you're going to get some pretty relevant things. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to click search. All right, remember, resort from newest to oldest. Court upholds tax conspiracy case. Conservatives hit tech giants with $1 billion free speech suit. This is actually probably a very, very interesting note, and I'm going to use this as an example for you. When you look at this case, this article, after Donald Trump, this is a very timely thing, and what's going on here is that conservative Republicans think that Facebook and Google and Twitter are violating their First Amendment by censoring conservative content. The reason that this is not a comment is because there's not a case on it yet. This would be called a predictive note, and you're going to read this whole thing, figure out the claims that everybody's making, and then you talk about what the societal issues are. Are these claims worthy? Do you think that they're going to be able to prevail? This is a great topic. I think it's interesting. It's cutting edge. It's taking this idea of fake news, which has been a really big deal. It'd be something you guys should maybe think about. Okay, so that's just one. I'm going to kind of jam through because I don't want you to fast forward the whole video and just show you some other ideas. Okay, wait, I'm just going to scroll down to number 8. Let's see this one. Now see. This one. This was a good one. Copyrights and trademarks headed back to the Supreme Court. Read the summary. They give you the name of the case. Oh, actually, this is a good point. So if you find a case that you either want to use as a jumping off point for your note, or you want to use it as a comment, you can just copy it out and stick it up at the top and then just find the case like that. Okay, the Second Circuit, this is actually a split, which we'll talk about in a second, but this would actually be something really good for entertainment law because it deals with copyrights and trademarks, so it's something to consider. All right, other issues, other ideas. I really like a paper that is rooted in cases and codes, cases and statutes, the law. If you get too kind of policy oriented, a lot of times you can fall into kind of like that college paper sort of societal thing, and that is not a legal paper. So you want to make sure you pick something that is rooted in cases and codes. So that's why I'm focusing on the First Amendment. I'm focusing on different things that are legally driven. However, wait, let me just run through a couple of these. What my favorite paper is, and I'm just going to skip ahead here. My favorite paper is this. It's a circuit court split. So I'm going to say circuit/s split, so within the same sentence, and I'm going to click search. The reason I love a circuit court split is because you get to analyze the Fourth Circuit and the Fifth Circuit, let's say, who split with the Ninth and the 11th. You get to see what approach is best, why this is impactful, having, like different standards or different tests being used in different circuits, and then say the Supreme Court has to grant cert, and then you get to say, based on the precedence that's out there, how you think that the Supreme Court should rule. It's a really good paper, and it's a fairly straightforward paper. I'm going to resort this from newest to oldest, and I'm just going to give you a couple examples here. Oh, this was a good one here. You know which one I really want to see? Oh, wait, hang on, let me see if I can find this. I can't find it. Oh yeah, this is a good one too. There's a lot of good stuff out there this year. Circuit split on FCA. Okay, this is about whistleblowing. That's of interest to you. You can look and see the 11th Circuit argues one way, the other circuits argue another way. Here it's bringing in the Supreme Court. So this kind of gives you like an overview of the law, and then you can go on to do more research on this subject. Circuit court splits are good papers, particularly if you pick a topic that's like really interesting and noteworthy. All right, a couple more ideas, okay? And then we're going to move on to preemption. I like, hey, just search on copyright. See what's going on out there. Just remember to resort from newest to oldest and see if you can find something that's interesting to you. Newest to oldest. Disney wins. Anti-immigration ad. I think you guys should look at this one. Will the High Court tackle the Google Oracle software war? That could be really interesting. Okay, let's go back. That could be a note, by the way. Other things. I love this. Open questions. This is what law review articles are all about. Search open questions. See what articles are talking about open questions in the law. And now I'm just going to give you ideas that I'm just going to write out here, okay? First impression. That's a great case to write on. It's something new that's never been discussed before. It's going to have impact, significance. First impression. What else? I liked, oh, you know what else I thought was really good? There's a lot going on with privacy law this year. So you can search just privacy, let's say. There's a lot of good ones. I feel like I want to show you a few more. And then you can resort this from newest to oldest. Hertz can't get it out of GC cheats. Okay, there's a couple really good things in here. In California is doing some new things, and I think, let me search here for legislation. So this would be like new legislation that's coming out in the area of privacy. I'm going to search within my results, and there's a couple in here that would be, I think, yeah, this is really good. Yeah, that's right. Facebook, Google could be wild cards in privacy lawsuit. Great. Another predictive note. California privacy law isn't the end of the world. Just to give you guys different ideas about what you can do in terms of searching in the news. The other thing you could do is search by company. I like this idea too. So you would say maybe something like, what's Google up to? What's Facebook up to? And then you read the articles on that. The other thing I really like, and this is always makes a really good article, is that talking about this, technology moves really fast, but the law moves slow. And so what happens sometimes is that the law is like outdated and it has to catch up with these new technological things. And that's always a great paper because that means there's got to be movement in the law in order to keep up with the new technology. So that might be this, drones, since same paragraph as privacy, let's say, right? Privacy would be the law, drone would be the new technology, cell phone, oh, this is a great topic, cell phone towers, Fourth Amendment. You know that there was a lot last year about whether or not the police could use the location of the pinging with the cell phone. The Supreme Court actually granted cert and issued an opinion, and it would be a great paper if you're interested in this. Okay, cell phone. This is also really good. Okay, so that's like the law moves, thinking about new technology, sometimes like Internet of Things. This is something actually someone else on your journal wrote a paper on this a couple of years ago, I think on the LLR. Internet of Things. What's going on with that? Actually, what is going on with that? Let's look. Resort. Maybe there isn't anything good. Rising Star, O'Melveny. You have to kind of go through and look and see what they're talking about. Sometimes not every search is great, you know. Okay, what else is good? Sometimes I like to do. All right, we search by circuit. We search by open question, first impression, splits. Oh, and you know what? Who else is doing some cool things? Is the California Supreme Court. So what are they up to? Search here. Resort. There is kind of some cool things that they were doing that they went through here. Zoning. I mean, it depends on what you guys are interested in, but you can always search by your area of law over here in the corner. You can search by the court, and then you can search by the area of law over here. The only other one I wanted to show you, because I thought there's some cool things going on with this one, is equal protection. See what's happening with that. And you want to resort this, we've discussed. Ninth Circuit reject. Oh yeah, I saw this. Ninth Circuit rejects adopted Honduran. Third Circuit. There's a lot on here actually. That's pretty interesting within the this particular circuit. Just one thing about writing. Oh, this is a great one too, about Uber and Lyft. Just one thing about writing on a Supreme Court case or on a case, let's say that has already been granted cert to the Supreme Court. If you write on that, you run the risk of being moot, because by the time your paper comes out and you're writing on the circuit court paper and then the Supreme Court comes and issues an opinion, there's no one's going to care about your paper anymore because the Supreme Court will have spoken. So that like open question will have now been answered. So just be careful when to look and make sure that your case isn't before the Supreme Court. Okay, so now we're going to talk about preemption. Okay, so let's say that you wanted to write your paper on the First Amendment, like we talked about up at the top of this. So we talk about First Amendment, and then within this, and we're going to talk about whether or not private employers could let somebody go based on their actions. So this is maybe something like has to do with like what happened in Charlottesville, and there's been a lot going on in terms of like people's white nationalist behavior, that kind of thing. So let's just say, okay, you want to kind of see what's going on. So you start broad. I start with really broad, and that's what I want you guys to do too. Oh, you know what? I did this wrong. Hang on. You have to get out of Law 360. So I'm going to go over here, and we're going to go to Law Reviews. So we're going to go to Lexis Advance up here, and I'm just going to search it. Okay, so I'm going to say First Amendment same paragraph as private employer. So can a private employer fire somebody for their non-work behavior, or is that a violation of the First Amendment? Now, arguably, it's a private employer, right? So they don't have to worry about the First Amendment, but that's kind of why it's an open question. So we're going to go over here and click here. A couple things I just want you guys to know. You can resort this. No, I want to go to cases. I want to go to secondary material. Now, let me tell you a few things before we get into this, okay? I'm going to resort this from newest to oldest. That's, oh no, wait. I have to refine this by category. Just remember, you guys do this. You've got to narrow it by category in order for you to resort from newest to oldest. Now, let me just tell you what the definition of preemption is, and then we're going to kind of apply it. The broad definition, the general rule, is that you are preempted if another article is written on your topic. Now that's a super, super broad definition. So there's a million different caveats to that, a lot of exceptions to the rule. So I'm just going to kind of point some out to you. If you are about to write a 40-page paper and you look through this list and you see an article that's very similar to what you want to say, but it's 5 pages long, you're not preempted because you're about to do a much more extensive analysis, and so you can't be preempted by 5 pages. If you look at a particular law review article and you think, oh my God, I'm writing on the Fourth Circuit too. That's kind of a part of my paper on this Fourth Circuit opinion about cell phone pings and location, and this paper is also about that. Okay, and you're like, oh, I must be preempted. Well, not necessarily. You always have to ask yourself, what new has happened? Why am I writing about this again? If the Supreme Court has come out with a decision, then you get to write about it all over again. You get to include the Fourth Amendment articles that are already out there, but then you get to add to this discussion by analyzing what the Supreme Court has said. So just to summarize that idea, this is big. If you see something that you think might be preempting you, you always have to focus on why you're writing this new paper to begin with. If you can add something to the discussion that hasn't already been said, you are not preempted. That's why it's so key to focus on the new developments in the law. The other thing that's important to note is if you look at a law review article and it's very on point for you, but it's 5 years old, that will very likely not preempt you, because if you're writing about it, it must be something new going on in the law that's going to allow you to write about that. So again, you get to take all the articles that have come up to this point to help you flesh out your own article, your own opinion, and your own arguments. But then you get to add the new piece, whatever that new piece is, new case, new piece of legislation, or maybe like a new, new piece of technology. Even the Charlottesville thing that happened last year, that was a new thing. And so now you get to kind of revisit all that case law that's already out there. So if you also, okay, this is the final one, if you also see a paper that's very on point for you, but they argue something, you want to argue the other way. You're like, you know what? I totally disagree with this girl. I wouldn't have argued like that. I want to say this. Then you are also not preempted. If you make a different argument, you can still write on your subject. So just make sure you always want to check the date, because if it's too old, it doesn't preempt you. Different arguments, the depth of the discussion, and whether or not there's been something new that's going to allow you to write on this all over again. Now, let me just tell you, it does happen that people get preempted. You're like, oh no, that's like a recent article that says exactly what I want to say, and I want to argue that way, and it's 40 pages or 30 pages or whatever. You're preempted and you got to move on. So let's just look at this for a second. The key thing here, remember, I want you to resort this from newest to oldest, and this is how I do it. I look at the article name and I look at the date. So if I say competing free speech in the age of protest, okay, I might need to read that a little bit more. I really want to talk about like employers, so I feel like this probably won't preempt to me, but maybe I'll look later. Employee free speech, navigating potential legal risks on social media. Okay, also a recent article, but this focus is social media. That's not my focus, so now I'm not preempted by that. Race, speech, and sports. Okay, I know I'm not preempted because I'm not talking about sports. Updating media policy. So do you see what I'm saying? You read every single title and then you look at the date. That's how I want you guys to do it, okay? And then occasionally you might see one, or not necessarily so occasionally, that you're like, oh wait, this is exactly what I want to say. And then you are preempted. So I want you to run this type of preemption check just by search terms like this if you're writing a note. This is how I want you to do it. If you are writing a comment, I want you to do it like this. You take the citation. I'm going to just, oops, hang on, sorry. Let's say I want to write on this circuit court case dealing with cell phone pings, okay? I put in the citation of the case I want to do. Then I'm going to shepherdize the case. Oh, wait, you know what? You know what? I picked a different case. Oh, I know what this was. This has to do with the Ninth Circuit trade secret case on honey badgers, actually. So let's say you decide you want to write a comment on this trademark case out of the Ninth Circuit. Okay, so it's a brand new case. I just want to say one more thing. Make sure when you pick a comment that it's long enough. You see, this is pretty long, and you want that, okay? If it's too short, you're not going to make your page length. All right, so I shepherdized the case. It just came out, right? I see no cases cited to it, but I'm going to move over here to other citing sources because I'm looking for the law reviews that have cited to this case, because Lexis will keep track of everything that's ever cited to this Gordon case, including law reviews. So I'm going to click here and say, oh, okay, there's no law review citing to this case. Therefore, I am not preempted. I can write to it. I can write on it. But then you might be thinking, oh, wait. You told me not to pick a topic that no one's ever written on it. Well, this is different because they're writing a comment. You're going to get a lot of your footnotes and your ideas from the cases cited within your case, the statute cited within your case, and other law review articles on this subject matter in general. So it's okay that there's nothing that has been written on this particular case. Okay, it just means that you're not preempted, and that's a good thing. So if you guys have questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to help you. If you want to email me your idea or say I can't tell if I'm preempted or not, I'll try to help you with that too. So that's it for me. If you have questions, you can email me, and you guys all have my email. Okay.